Great to be here again. A lot has happened in the last year, and it's a really great opportunity to follow up on some of the things that we did talk about last year, but also looking even further into the future and current developments. And what we're going to talk about today, collective intelligence, is of course a consequence of the fact that AI today is almost in many senses a commodity. We have such strong models that are gaining almost superhuman capabilities in area after area after area. And with the latest developments of models that are actually reasoning when we ask them a question and actually sort of talk to themselves about how to solve a problem, results have really started to shoot through the roof, even in more complex scenarios. Combined with using external tools, integrated new data sets, etc., this kind of capability is something that is just starting to see actual real use at scale, but it will be there. However, one of the things that we typically talk about when we talk about these models and these developments and so on is that sometimes we tend to talk about them in a little bit as monoliths. This model does this model does that. This is a photo of a very old textbook, and it's a very old photo from an old presentation, but I really like the title of the book, basically. It's called Society of Mind, and essentially, this is what we're going to talk about today. How do we build smaller systems, or perhaps relatively large intelligences, that actually start talking to each other to fulfill something bigger, actually solve real tasks? And of course, this is something that some of these foundation models already start doing within themselves, but we're definitely seeing a development to, if we want to get real value out of these things, we need to build them into other systems. So here we come to agent systems. So here is a little bit of my take as both a researcher and a practitioner. Agents in 2025 is a little bit like, this is the practical approach to actually leverage some of these technologies to gain real value out of them, both in terms of natural interaction, but also actually automating things, actually accessing all the different data sets that we need to incorporate, accessing all the tools that we need. It might be physical simulators or other things that they need to use to actually find out objectives or results. Basically, agents in 2025 is the practical approach to scale these kinds of systems to real value. And we can see that they are really starting to redefine software. So we're already seeing companies building these things in-house, where we have software processes talking more or less natural language to each other and going back and forth, which is fantastic. We are starting to see that it might actually start to commoditize some of this, for example, software as a service companies and so on, because all of a sudden, rebuilding some things becomes so much easier, and it's a much more difficult task to stay unique. And another thing that's happening in the background is that for all the systems that we've built so far, interfaces are changing. When we have agents actually performing tasks or talking to each other in the background, computer interfaces become something completely different, and in some cases almost disappears. So this is quite a big change, both for existing companies, but also if you want to build new services and technologies for the future. So if we're looking at, for some of the approaches that personally I've been working with and that we've been working with within AI Sweden, everything stretches from very, very simple stuff, simple workflow automation. You trigger an agent basically on very, very simple things. It might be a question, or it might be a time, or something like that. Helpful, but not all the way there. Then, of course, we have agents building more and more on actual self-planning and execution of tasks, but with humans in the loop. But more and more, I think a lot of companies and a lot of organizations are actually looking at, how do we build them fully autonomous? So if we actually want full automation, what do we need to do? And an interesting thing here is that sometimes it's easier to actually go from nothing to full automation, in a sense, then go through human interaction, because we can actually build solutions that are not human explainable or interpretable in any sense, but they work anyway. And that, of course, this means a lot. Going towards autonomy and automation means that perhaps we need to talk about these things a little bit differently. We need to build these kind of agent systems and integrate them in everything we do to get these kind of productivity gains that we really want. But that also sort of means that we might not just be automating tasks anymore, that we've been talking about in this AI sphere for a very long time. But perhaps we're actually starting to remove some job descriptions. What does that actually mean then for the workforce and the integration of these type of AI technologies? So these are some of the things that we're going to talk about today. How do we build these things? What will it mean for services, for research and development? How do you use this to build research and development semi-autonomously, etc., etc.? Of course, if we start to go beyond one organization especially, and actually have agents talking to lots of other agents across organizations, how do we address safety, security, basic stability of the system so that doesn't go do something really, really stupid eventually? And today, in 2025, with the last months and last weeks even of developments, it's difficult to tackle these issues without actually at least touching the geopolitics of AI. So where will these things be built? What principles, and who gets to use them and how? And we will talk a little bit about that at the end of the seminar. With that, I think it's time to leave the floor to some of our guests.
Indeed it is. Thank you for that spectacular introduction, Daniel.